Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to anyone who's joining us online as well. Today is our fifth day of a course that I've been teaching here. And on the fifth day, we go out to these two temples in order to help students to be able to understand the symbolism, the artwork, and the architecture of temples and how they're constructed, and understanding the teachings of the Buddha through the actual artwork, architecture, and symbolism. It's kind of like a classroom without walls. And then we invite other people to come too, because maybe you didn't even know we were having a course here, or maybe you were doing other things and you'd like to just go on the tour. So welcome to all of you guys, whether you've been joining all throughout the week or if you're just joining for the tour. What I'm going to do to get us started is I'm going to guide you in a meditation, and then afterwards we'll kind of talk a little bit about the tour and help you guys understand what it is that we're going to be doing today. So if you'd like to join for the meditation, the way that we start this is we start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. And if you'd like to see these chants, they're on a laminated sheet over there on the table. You're welcome to help yourself and get a laminated sheet. You're going to see the Pali language that we're chanting in, and then there's the English translations as well. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory, that every 2 weeks his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally, because the technology to write things down didn't exist during that time frame. It existed in China, but it hadn't made its way to that region of the world where the Buddha was. So they used chanting exclusively to commit the teachings to memory. So it's important to understand that there isn't anything mystical or magical here with these chants. This isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. In fact, it's not even prayer or anything like that. The Buddha never taught any of those kinds of things. He didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. And if you've been exposed to those kinds of things thinking that it's Buddhism, the Buddha didn't actually teach these things. These are things that people added afterwards. He used chanting exclusively to help his students remember his teachings, because he taught orally and they didn't have any other mechanism to be able to help them to remember the teachings. So they would recite his teachings orally to be able to remember them. If you look at the English translations, you're going to see a lot of respect and gratitude and appreciation for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't even think the Buddha actually created these chants. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death. Because what the Buddha did is he helped his students get to enlightenment. What enlightenment is a mental state that you attain in this life. When you get to enlightenment, your mind has been trained and you've uprooted certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. And when you uproot these pollutions out of the mind, you will experience the elimination of anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated through training the mind. You don't need to keep experiencing these painful feelings over and over and over again. You can get to a point where your mind's focused, having concentration, clarity, and deep memory, that your mind is bright and cheerful and glad and it's uplifted. You can get to a point where all your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming and they're at ease. You don't have any bitterness and harshness and hostility in your life anymore. You'll get to a point where you're not even in a bad mood, that the causes and conditions of a bad mood have been uprooted and eliminated from the mind. And this comes through training of the mind. That's why the Buddha didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. He didn't teach those things because it doesn't lead to the cultivation of the mind. It doesn't lead to wisdom and actually training the mind to get to this enlightened mental state. So these students that the Buddha taught, they were able to gradually move their mind to this enlightened mental state through training of the mind. And the Buddha didn't want anything from his students or expect anything from his students. And if you learn from a teacher who didn't want anything or expect anything from you, and they helped you move from this anger and bitterness and hostility to this peace and joy, which is a permanent mental state, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation and gratitude for that person too. And that's why I think these chants actually came from his students, because if the Buddha went around and said, here, chant these things to me out of appreciation and gratitude and respect to me, this would be arrogance and ego. And an individual who's gotten to enlightenment, they don't have that arrogance and ego in the mind. So these chants nowadays, we use them to ease the mind into meditation, because we don't need them in order to remember the teachings, because we have books and audiobooks and videos and podcasts and things like this. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to use these to ease us into the meditation. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing guidance during the meditation. So I'll actually be instructing you and guiding you while we're actually meditating, so you can learn how to meditate while we're actually meditating. But then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. I'm sure you hear an occasional sound here or there because you can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. If your mind craves permanent quietness, but yet you live in an impermanent world where things are constantly changing, with that craving for permanence, your mind will be frustrated or agitated or annoyed when you hear a sound. But that's the mind craving and longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way, instead of realizing that things in the world are completely impermanent and constantly changing. So I'm sure you're going to hear an occasional car, maybe you hear a bird chirping or a dog barking. This is all impermanent. Someone might sneeze or cough here. There we go, right on cue, right? Someone might sneeze or cough, and that's just impermanence, right? We don't have to be annoyed or frustrated. So if your mind's not craving permanent silence, then when you hear these things, you'll be completely at ease and peaceful. After the period of time where we're all meditating together, we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then I'll share a little bit about the tour with you, and then that's where we'll head out and go on our tour for today. In terms of your body positioning, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught for meditation. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And as part of your journey to enlightenment, you would learn these different positions at different times because your body can't permanently be in the same position. It's just not possible that your body is going to need to have these different positions as your body needs these throughout your life. But in terms of where people are typically learning, they're typically starting off in the seated position. So I'll give you some guidance in the seated position just to help you get started. You can sit on the floor in a chair. Maybe if someone was at home, they might be on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair or something like this. These are all options for you. You can sit however you're comfortable. There's no one way to actually sit because, again, that would be permanence when we live in an impermanent world. But oftentimes people are sitting on the floor or in a chair. If you're sitting on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This is going to kind of help to soften your seat. And then if you're choosing to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, this would impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets the hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and it allows the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. It's not actually possible for that to occur. So there's other options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you find whatever's comfortable for you. And that's the same for anybody who's in a chair, or on a bench, or a sofa, or in a wheelchair, or anything like that. You can sit however you're comfortable. Oftentimes people sit with their feet either flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles. But you can see me, I'm sitting in a chair with my legs crossed. So that's an option as well. And then your hands and your arms can be wherever you're comfortable. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect, with your sternum up and your shoulders back. This will help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from your mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like your mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. So having the sternum up and the shoulders back, not only will it keep your mind attentive and alert, but it'll also help you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with chanting, which you guys are welcome to join in on. Then I'm going to come back in with some guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Potang Mahakawanang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang namami. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Iti piso emakawa arahang samma sambuddho. Vicacaranang sammuno sakato rokawitu. Anuttaro purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusanang Bhoto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะกะวาพุทธังมหาควันนังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาควัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาควัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาคาวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Nice to see everyone. Good morning. What I've been doing here over the last several years is helping students to understand the path to enlightenment. These are the teachings of the Buddha, and the path to enlightenment is to purify your mind of the causes and conditions that are producing discontent feelings. As you guys heard at the beginning, by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind is performing optimally. It's not experiencing any of those discontent feelings. You're noticing all these enhanced benefits with the quality of your mind. And this comes through training of your mind, through eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So meditation is a big part of that, but you wouldn't be able to meditate your way to enlightenment. You would need other things besides meditation to be able to get to enlightenment. Meditation is an important component of the path to enlightenment, so you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation, but you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. There's other things that you need as well. Essentially, what the Buddha is doing is he's helping you to understand how to get to this peaceful and joyful mental state that he attained. He did this on his own without the help of any teachers or any guides, and then he's helping you to understand the natural world around you. There's no beliefs or opinions or views in the teachings of the Buddha. It's not believing a bunch of things and then hoping that something good happens when you die. Instead, what you're doing with the teachings of the Buddha is you're learning, examining, and you're investigating his teachings now in this life. You're reflecting on those teachings to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. Then you're practicing his teachings, integrating into your day-to-day life what he actually taught in order to transform your mind. He helped you to awaken to the natural laws of existence. What it means to awaken is to cultivate wisdom. When you live in a world that you don't understand, you will struggle and you have difficulties in that world. That's what the stress and the anxiety and the guilt and the shame and the fear and the anger and all these other feelings are for. It's helping you to be able to see that your mind is not yet awake, that you're struggling and having certain difficulties in day-to-day life. So as you're learning and understanding the teachings of the Buddha, you're awakening to these natural laws that are affecting you whether you're aware of it or not. And just like the natural law of gravity, that we were all affected by this whether we were aware of it or not, when we lacked wisdom of this natural law of gravity, we struggled and we had difficulties. As a child, we fell down, we hurt our elbows and our knees, and we broke our toys, and we cried and cried and cried because we just didn't understand the world that we lived in. But slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of the natural law of gravity, and then we started making wiser and wiser decisions, and it was producing wholesome results for us. And that's where we started to navigate the world more peacefully. We started tying our shoes a bit tighter. We started looking at the surface of the sidewalks. We stopped being so giddy and bouncing around like a kid all the time. And now we can climb ladders. We can get on bicycles. We can get on airplanes and fly all over the world because we fully awoke to the wisdom of this natural law of gravity. Well, there's other natural laws that the Buddha taught that the mind is unaware of. And what he's doing for you is helping you to understand what those natural laws are. He's not trying to convince you of anything. He's not trying to guilt, shame, or fear you into anything. He didn't teach rules and commandments. He's helping you to understand these natural laws. And as you understand these natural laws through your intellectual learning, through your reflection to independently verify them, and then through practicing them, you will see that your mind is performing more and more optimally because now you're not struggling and having difficulties in the world any longer. But this isn't a situation where you can snap your fingers and instantly get to enlightenment. It's not a light switch. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. The main natural law that he's teaching you about is called the natural law of karma. You might have heard the word karma being used. This is from the Sanskrit language, and it's more popular to use the word karma, but the original teachings of the Buddha are in what's called the Pali Canon. It's in the Pali language, and in that language, they use the word karma. What this means is cause and effect, or action and result. If it translated to just one English word, I would just use that English word. It'd be easier for everyone. But essentially what the natural law of karma is it's the results of your decisions. That based on certain decisions that you make, either wisely or unwisely, you are going to experience either wholesome results or wholesome karma, or you're going to experience unwholesome results or unwholesome karma. So it's through our intentions, our speech, and our actions, the way we conduct ourselves in our day-to-day life, which are our decisions. The decisions that we make are going to produce a certain effect. So there's nothing mystical or magical with the natural law of karma. It's not punishments and rewards. It's not anything mystical or magical. It's not about blame or fault or anything like this. And there's no being who's overseeing this and controlling what you experience. Sometimes we think that what we experience is either good luck or bad luck, or destiny or fate, or some people think there's a being controlling, or some kind of universe or entity controlling what we experience. Or sometimes people think it's other people who determine what you experience. But this isn't actually true. If you resigned yourself to this type of thinking, that means that you're locked in, you're like a robot, and you can't change anything about your life. Because you can't change good luck or bad luck. You can't change destiny or fate. You can't change some supreme being that's maybe people thinking that it's controlling the world, and you can't change other people. But what you can do is you can change your own mind. You can see the truth and the reality of things is that everything you experience in life is a result of your decisions. You can see this because who chose where you're sitting right now, right? Who chose the hairstyle that you're wearing? Who chose the clothing that you're wearing? Who chose where you live and where you work? Who chose that you even came to Thailand to be here, or either on holiday or if you're living here? These are all choices that you're making. So you're experiencing the results of your choices. And it's today, what we're doing is I'm taking students out to the temples to be able to help them to be able to understand the teachings of the Buddha. And if you'd like to come along, you're more than welcome to do that. And what I do is it's like a classroom without walls, that I walk through these temples and I help you to see the artwork, the architecture, and the symbolism. It's helping you to be able to understand the teachings of the Buddha. And there's certain things in the temples that are happening that aren't the teachings of the Buddha, because we're 2,500 years after the death of the Buddha, and people have changed his teachings over time, either inadvertently changed his teachings or overtly changed his teachings. And the Buddha warned that if we did this, it would make it very difficult for people to understand the path to enlightenment and actually get to enlightenment. So my goal is to help people to be able to see this path to enlightenment very clearly, because then you'll be able to learn it, reflect on it, and practice it, and start to experience the qualities of the enlightened mind as you gradually train your mind to get closer and closer to this enlightened mental state. So if you'd like to go on this tour, the way that I do this is we go visit 2 different temples in one day. I've organized some transportation outside, the red trucks. We call them song taos, which means 2 feet. These are your 2 feet for the day, right? They're going to take you around and give you transportation. And we go from here, we go to Wat Umong, which is a forest temple. And it's more like a park and kind of very, lots of trees, almost like being out in nature. And we walk around for about an hour and a half or so. And I'm teaching you the things at this particular temple, like I mentioned, kind of like a classroom without walls, helping you to understand the artwork, the architecture, and the symbolism based on the teachings of the Buddha. Then we go from there, we go up the mountain to a Hill Tribe restaurant. We have a nice lunch. They have a really big, thick menu. They have all different types of dishes, whether it's meat or vegetarian or vegan. They have all the different things that you would like. And if there's something that they don't have that you would like, I've seen them actually go get it somewhere. So feel free to speak up. If you would like something, they'll actually go get it for you. After we eat lunch, we then go into the temple on the mountain and we tour around there, and I teach you about that. And then we get back down here around 5 p.m. These are 2 different temples. One is a forest temple, and one I refer to as the city temples, even though they're not all in the city. These are 2 different branches of Buddhist teachings in Thailand. The forest temples are considered to be closer to the teachings of the Buddha, and then there's these city temples that aren't necessarily considered to be practicing the teachings so closely. And by visiting these 2 temples on the same day, you'll be able to see the contrast between them as I walk you around and teach you about this. As I mentioned, we typically get back here around 5 o'clock, sometimes a little bit earlier, sometimes a little bit later. It just all depends on traffic. If you would like to go, all you really need is a few hundred baht in your pocket, because usually what the students do is they split the cost of the song taos, which end up being about 200 to 300 baht per student, depending on how many students we have. There'll be about 200 or 300 baht per person, which is a lot less expensive than if you did this whole trip on your own. Then in terms of lunch, depending on how much you eat, you might spend 200 baht, 150 baht, depending on what you like to eat, maybe 300 baht, depending on how many dishes or whether you get dessert or drinks and things like that. Then there's snacks and water and all this stuff along the way. So you don't have to feel like you have to load yourself down with a bunch of stuff. If you have, maybe 6, 8, 100 baht, maybe 1,000 baht in your pocket, you would be completely fine to go on this tour to be able to afford to pay for the things along the way. And you'll learn a lot of things along the way. You're going to meet lots of people. You're going to have lots of fun along the way. As you just heard me share with the natural law of karma, everything we experience is a result of our decisions. When we're polite, kind, friendly, and respectful to people, that's what we experience coming back to us. And when we're impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful, that's what we experience coming back to us. Every time we go on these trips, it's always a great and wonderful time. You get a chance to talk, have conversation, meet other people that are interested in some of the similar things that you're interested in, and you get to learn a lot of things. And there's opportunities for you guys to ask questions along the way. You guys will see how I do that. And I just am here to help you guys to understand this path to enlightenment as taught by the Buddha, so that then when you go to visit temples, you'll actually understand what you're seeing. Sometimes when you go to visit temples, it's just kind of like, oh, wow, that's pretty. Let me take a picture of that. But if you understand what is in these temples, it's almost like the temple walls speak to you, because there's embedded teachings inside the temples. And if you know about the teachings, you can walk around and the walls kind of speak to you. And this is something that the Thai people do when they go on holiday, that like say you're from Chiang Mai and you go on holiday to Phuket, there's a good chance you're going to visit a few temples with your family, and you walk around the temples and it's almost like a scavenger hunt, trying to figure out what are the artists and the architects trying to communicate to us. Because most of these temples were built 500 to 1,000 years ago, and they're built based on the teachings of the Buddha. I've never been to two temples that are exactly the same, but you're going to see similar symbolism and artwork and architecture in the various temples, but they're just arranged differently. But when you understand some of these things, you can go into a temple and it has real meaning for you. It's almost like a library that's speaking to you when you're looking at the walls and the murals and the artwork and all these kinds of things. So if this is what you guys are interested in, this is what I'm planning to do with students. You guys are all invited to come. Before I open up to questions, or actually let me open up to questions first. Do you guys have any questions on what I just shared and kind of what the plan is for the day? Any questions? Yeah, you don't have to do anything at all, actually, right? The thing that I always teach is the only thing you have to do is die. So if you got there and like you saw the steps, you're like, no, I'm not going up those steps. That's a choice for you to make, right? But there is a temple that has 306 steps, but they also have a cable car that takes you up too. You can pay 20 baht and it'll take you up. It's kind of like a sideway elevator, but they call it a cable car. So if you'd like to walk up the steps, it'll take you about 5 to 8 minutes to walk up, or you can get the cable car to go up for 20 baht. No, it's 306 steps. I used to take this trip every Friday when I first started touring, and I used to go walk up the steps every Friday. So depending on how you feel, when you get to that point, you can make a decision. Because what I'll do is I'll show people the way to go up the steps, and I'll show the people how to go on the cable car. And then I'll even make my decision in the present moment, seeing how I feel by the time I get there. Yep. Any other questions? So let me take a poll of how many people are actually going, because I need to make sure we have enough transportation. Can I see a show of hands? How many people are going? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and I'm 18. And you guys are taking your motorbikes, right? Okay, cool. So I said I'm 17, 18, 19. We'll have a total of 19. Okay. I've never left anybody on the mountain before. So there's always a first time, though. You could be that person. All right. So there's 17 of us, and then there's 19. You guys will have your motorbikes. Okay. So we have plenty of transportation. I've organized 3 trucks out there. So if you guys would like to take a few moments to use the restrooms, to gather your stuff, and then you can just go outside and load up in the trucks, and then we'll just head out like in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm looking forward to having a wonderful day with you guys. We'll see you guys on the trucks, right? Thank you so much for being here.